Hi there. First question. So why research shows that 70 to 80% of neurodivergent learners also struggle with their mental health. Why do I think that is? So why I think this is a variety of factors. The first off is that wittingly or unwittingly, we compare ourselves to others. It's really easy to be a student in a classroom. I remember doing this, looking over at someone's paper and they're further along in their essay than I am, or they finished the test and I haven't even begun to comprehend what's going on. Or, even as parents, we say, hey, look, Johnny's being really good, and why aren't you being like that? Or so-and-so plays the trumpet. You don't, how about you play an instrument? So we're kind of doing these comparison little things, not necessarily intentionally. And so those play a lot inside your head and can sometimes lead to negative self-talk. So a lot of that negative self-talk can go on loops, and I'm not good enough, I don't understand, everybody else gets it, why don't I get it? Or they figured out how to do it really easily and I'm struggling, or they said they did homework for 20 minutes, I did homework for 2 hours. All of these things can lead to a lot of really negative ruminating inside of you. And that can lead to mental health issues if not dealt with or put into perspective. I think another reason that mental health can play a role in neurodivergent learners is because we just think differently. We think outside of the box. And so you have someone who might say something, might be taken out of context, might have been said out of context. And so thinking through, I remember at a young age constantly reliving and rethinking through social interactions because I didn't catch a cue that maybe I should have, and then I said something and then it was inappropriate to have said, or not taken in the right context, how I maybe meant it. And so then you're playing those conversations in your head. And so that leads to really sort of isolating tendencies, which, as we know, are not necessarily the best for your mental health. So I think that those are some things that can lead to neurodivergent learners struggling with mental health. And then, in my experience, how does mental health affect learning? I know that with my own sons, one of them, actually two of them, ended up with school-based anxiety. One was diagnosed, one wasn't, but ultimately it was the same thing. So there was a lot of school avoidance going on, a lot of tummy aches, a lot of I don't feel good, and then miraculously feeling better on the weekends. So all of these physical manifestations were absolutely mental health related. So school avoidance is a huge challenge, especially if the learners aren't feeling successful in school, aren't feeling like they're getting the right supports that they need at school. They're getting a lot of maybe empathy in the area of being supported in their learning, but it really is a struggle for teachers to understand that they're creating this learned helplessness thing, which only manifests and snowballs as the years go on. So if they're just kind of being passed along from grade to grade, the students and the learners themselves know that they aren't able to keep up with the work. And so this is riding pretty hard in their minds of, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, which then in turn leads to I'm much more overwhelmed than I can even fathom. And so this is absolutely an effect on mental health. Also just comparing. So you might have a gifted learner that struggles with executive functioning skills, and they're struggling because they know they're different. They know they think differently. And so even though they might academically look solid, they're struggling as well with mental health. So this is another area where really being on top of not just the academics learning, but how are they feeling about their learning? How are they feeling about what's going on in the classroom? What's going on in the school environment make a big difference and impact on the mental health. And then lastly, on the flip side of that, how does how we learn affect our mental health? Again, I go back to the negative self-talk, anxiety, fear, which causes a shutting down of our thinking process. All of those things are, actions within our mind and our brain, which will shut down if it's in fight or flight mode, can't take in any new learning, which will affect short-term memory, working memory, ultimately long-term memory. And so a lot of these mental health issues just stop the process of learning altogether. So until we get through and find the pathway for a learner to feel safe, supported, they really won't even have the physical ability to take in new information. And the piece of advice that I give for parents of neurodivergent children when it comes to their child's mental health is just don't wait. If they're getting tummy aches in elementary school, it is only going to get worse. If you're noticing that they're missing school, if you're noticing they're avoiding school, don't wait. Get help immediately, because the reality is it snowballs the harder school gets. Oftentimes what we hear is that my child was fine and up and through third grade, and fourth grade is when things took a turn. The whole reason that happens is fourth grade is when the academic pressure starts getting harder. And so that's when the kids actually start noticing, I think I'm noticing that other kids are getting it, or they're getting better grades, or they're passing this test and I'm not. And so all of those things start really affecting the mind and could affect the body, and will absolutely affect the negative self-talk and the feelings of self-worth. So getting ahead of that at every turn, finding somebody, not just academic tutors, but there's tutoring to support, executive functioning, things like organization, time management, test-taking skills. So all of the things that are kind of the undercurrent of where the child is struggling, not just the math facts or learning to read. Supporting all areas of the whole child and their well-being is imperative to ensure success with their academics and schooling journey.